The leaves of the bushes outside brushed against the rain-soaked window by his table, as if pleading to be let inside. The miner licked his teeth to remove bits of chicken meat, and then he stroked his mustache. Despite his presence, Bakura remained oblivious to his guest. The waitress arrived for Bakura's meal moments later, a steaming plate of pulled pork doused in herbed honey sauce. Bakura paid the girl handsomely with a small stack of gold star chips, and with a wave of his hand, sent her away.
"That's a mighty fine cup you got there,"
the miner said at last. Bakura paid him no heed and placed a handkerchief over his lap, so the sauce would not drip onto his coat and stain the beautiful leather. He picked up his fork and knife and began to eat his meal. He gracefully dug the fork into the juicy strands of sweetened meat and raised them to his mouth where he chewed them slowly. His mouth arched into a satisfied smile, a sign that he enjoyed the taste of his dinner. The miner continued to watch Bakura eat. There was tension brewing inside of him, and many of the patrons in the inn could sense a brawl was about to begin any moment now. The musicians felt it too, but they had to proceed to play their songs. The miner was a bulked-up bully with thick arms covered in hair and marred with tattoos and scars from the many years that he toiled in the mines. He spoke to Bakura again, but Bakura said not a word and poured himself another drink. He looked up at the miner and finally said, "Would you care for some?" His cold and scratchy voice almost sent a chill up the miner's spine as though he was embraced by the winds of winter. "It's a rare vintage."
"Ah, so he speaks," said the miner. "Yes, Scarlet's Kiss, it's a rare vintage indeed."
"You know about wine?" said Bakura.
"Of course. I have a brother who works in a vineyard up in Embledore. He delivers me a few samples from the winery owned by a family of elves. I hate them pointy ears, but they sure do know how to make a good drink."
"You have a dislike for the elves," said Bakura. "How do you feel about my kind?" He removed his hood to reveal himself to the miner. He looked like he walked out of a picture book. His pink hair was multi-layered and spiked, and his eyes were cold and unforgiving. His face was angular and his skin was as pale as death.
"You're one of them tombs?"
said the miner, calling Bakura by the derogatory term used for the Eldori.
"I can't say I like you lot either. You're all freaks of nature, each and every one of you."
"Then you must find somewhere else to sit," said Bakura. "I do not take kindly to the company of bigots. You humans are all the same. Greedy, hateful, judgmental, loud, and destructive." The miner let out a heavy snigger.
"Be that as it may, you've got a nice fine cup, and I want it."
"Do you?"
"Yes, and I ain't keen on asking nicely, so hand it over before things get ugly."
"No need for barbarism, my friend. Are you accustomed to the game Duel Monsters?" The miner grinned, showing off his teeth, yellowed from years of chewing tobacco.
"Accustomed? I couldn't call myself a Terminian if I didn't play Duel Monsters. If you're insistent on wagering the cup, then I say you're on."
"Very well," said Bakura. "I will wager my cup, but you must wager your soul." The miner laughed. He didn't believe in that sort of nonsense. He thought the man in front of him was probably another merc smoker from the Indigo Mountains, who read palms and tarot cards. He agreed to the match, reached into his pocket, and slammed his deck on the table. His cards were old and wrinkled. The edges, once a crisp white, were now a shade of brown mold. Bakura placed the black rubber mat on his side of the table before putting down his cards. The miner's eyes widened with awe and greed, for Bakura's cards were shiny as if polished, and the borders were in a bright gold that reflected the firelight beautifully.
"What's your name, good sir?"
asked the miner. "Just call me Bakura." A loud blast of thunder broke the calm of the night once again. The miner nodded.
"Very well, Bakura. I'll start first."
He drew his card from the deck, adding it to his 5-card hand. "Fine. We will play with 2,000 life points as I am short on time.
Fine with me. That'll mean I'll be taking that cup a lot sooner. Here we go. For my first move, I'll summon Bioplant with a strength of 600 attack points. Got anything to beat that, do ya?
Is that all? Bakura chuckled, drawing a card from his deck. You disappoint me. I summon 3-headed Geedo in attack mode, and he has a strength of 1,300, more than enough to take out your Bioplant.
Alright, you got lucky, said the miner.
He now had 1,300 life points. He drew his next card after Bakura ended his turn.
Aha, this'll do nicely. I'll summon Crazy Fish with an attack power of 1,600, and he will destroy your Geedo.
Nice move. Bakura picked up his defeated monster card and placed it in the discard pile. I might have underestimated you. But how can your fish fare with this? Bakura slapped his card on the mat. Ghoul with an appetite.
That ghoul has the same attack points as my Crazy Fish. They'll destroy each other if they battle.
No, they won't. For I will combine it with the power of the malevolent Nuzzler.
A spell card!
Indeed, and a very powerful one too. For this card will increase my ghoul's attack by 700, for a total of 2,300 attack points. And with that, I will destroy your Crazy Fish. The miner was stunned when he did the math and realized that Bakura brought him down to 700 life points. He drew his next card, muttering prayers of blessing from the goddess of luck. His worried look faded and turned into one of joy when he drew just the card he needed.
Wait till you see this, he boasted,
smacking the card onto the table.
The Millennium Shield in defense mode. Now, you can't strike my life points.
A defense strength of 3,000. Impressive. But you'll have to do better than that, I'm afraid.
What are you talking about? You don't have any monster that can match up to my shield. Your cup is as good as mine.
So you say, Bakura said with a sinister smile. But watch as I play the spell card, Stop Defense. This will force your monster into attack mode. The miner slammed his fist on the table.
Oh shoot! My shield has an attack power of 0!
Bakura sniggered at the miner's despair. Yes, game over. I will strike your shield with my ghoul. That wins me the game, and your soul. The miner suddenly pulled out a dagger from his belt.
You think some Duel Monsters game is gonna stop me from getting your cup?
He leaned over the table, raised up his arm, and then he jabbed his weapon into Bakura's chest. The man sneered and rammed his dagger farther and farther into his foe's flesh. He looked up to see if his victim had passed, but gasped in utter horror when he saw Bakura didn't even flinch, despite the 10-inch dagger was deep inside his chest. Bakura looked at the miner and sneered. He raised his index finger and wagged it to and fro over the man's face. The inn suddenly got cold. The fire went out, and the patrons were gone. The waitresses vanished. The calm music was nowhere to be heard. There was not a sound, save for the spine-tingling moan of the souls wandering the darkness outside the window. They were nothing but hideous, faceless blobs walking around outside.
Where are they?
The miner babbled. Bakura let out a laugh. The look of fear on people's faces made him so happy. They are lost souls, said he, doomed to wander the shadows for all eternity. And you shall be joining them soon. The miner's teeth chattered, seeing Bakura's face light up from the gloom outside. At this moment, he knew he would never again see the sunshine. Never again feel the sensation of cold beer run down his gullet. Never would he feel the flesh of the tavern maidens. After this moment, he would know only darkness and suffering. He heard a loud crunch, followed by a sharp, fiery pain below the waist. He coughed and looked to see what had happened. Jowls made of shadow were clutching his legs and pulling him to the floor, snarling with hunger. The miner grabbed on the table with all his might, calling for help. "Fool," said Bakura. "It will do you no good. As of now, nobody even knows you're here. They'll have no memory of you. Oh, don't look so despaired. I promise you'll get used to the darkness soon enough." Bakura took out the dagger from his chest. He licked the blood from the blade and laughed when he saw tears pouring down the miner's face. With a powerful chop, Bakura cut off the miner's fingers. The miner screamed as the jowls dragged him to the darkest depths of the Shadow Realm, and he was never seen again. When the miner was gone, the fire returned, and the sound of music and laughter came back to the inn. Bakura shuffled his cards and put them back into his coat before sitting back down. His wound healed instantly. The waitress approached to take his plate. "May I recommend something to follow with your meal, sir?" she asked. "We've got cream caramel, or may I recommend a slice of apple pie?" "The caramel will be fine, my dear," Bakura said, finishing the last of his pulled pork. "And a little something extra, if you could quench a little more than my thirst tonight." He placed a velvet sack of small diamonds into the palm of her hand. The waitress blushed and gave a cute giggle. "I get off my shift at 11, sir." "I will see you then," Bakura said with an ear-to-ear grin. The waitress suppressed another giggle with her fingers and walked away. Her pigtails were flailing up and down as she playfully scampered back into the kitchen to complete more orders. The doors to the inn suddenly opened, letting in a gust of wind that caused the fire to stutter and the chandeliers to shimmy and shake. "Welcome to the Lady Luck," the innkeeper said to the man, hooded and cloaked to shield him from the elements. Would you require anything, sir?" "A glass of water, if you don't mind," the man said from the darkness of his hood. He quickly shut the door and spotted Bakura. "So there you are," the man said, taking off his hood to reveal his face. Like Bakura, he too was of the Eldori race. He had light blue hair fringed like Bakura's, and he had a green eye and a gold eye. There was a chain with a green gem hanging over his forehead. "Darts," Bakura said gleefully. "So good of you to join me." Darts disapprovingly shook his head. "We marched to battle, and yet I find you here feasting, drinking, and fraternizing with the maidens." Darts pulled up the chair the miner once occupied and sat down. The waitress came back and brought Darts his water. Afterward, he waved his hand and shooed her away. "What reason do you have to be so worried, my friend?" Bakura sneered. "We have all but won this night." "There has been talking as of late," said Darts. "Whispers that the song that thundered in the sky a year ago was the harbinger of a great and ancient power." Bakura scoffed and shrugged his shoulders without care. "It's just gossip." Darts leaned forward. "But it speaks truth. The Seltra you were supposed to eliminate gave birth to a child up north. They were hiding from the church inside of a stable until Yugimoto rode in from the night and rescued them. The child's birth only adds to my chagrin of that flying Duel monster, the winged egg of new life. It is a special creature that foresees the birth of children, you know this. Special children. The egg flew all over Termini the night heroes such as Tiberius Pendragon was born. Now it flies all over Terminia, and then a song that causes dragons to dance shakes the earth. The child that the Seltra has given birth to is the offspring of Gabriel the Black." "Gabriel?" Bakura snickered, spilling wine out from between his teeth. "I should have known he had something to do with the Seltra's disappearance." "He is no fool," Dart said ominously. "He knew we were hunting his wife. I blame you. You give yourself off too soon summoning that deer-bound monster." Gabriel can sense darkness and your creature reeks of fell power. But now we have him cornered. There is nowhere for him to run. Our orcs' numbers are far too many for those self-righteous silver paladins to contend with.
Dart shook his head slowly. No. I have a bad feeling about this, Bakura. We should call off the assault. Bakura let out a laugh in which the entire inn ceased what they were doing and looked at him.
Outside!
He got up and stormed out of the inn. Darts followed cautiously. Though a wizard of great power, he knew Bakura was just as potent, if not more than he.
Call off the assault?
Bakura shouted over the pounding rain.
Do you have any idea of the sacrifices I had to make, sneaking those brainless orcs into Thara?
I said it before, and I'll say it again. I have a bad feeling about this. There is a force beyond our own work here. I fear even the Dark Lord is in great danger.
How are you an AR of the higher power? You will let rumors, stories, and speculation stop what we work so hard to achieve?
If you wish to go forth with this madness, you shall do so without my Orichalco soldiers.
Then I will have the glory, Darts, I assure you. Turning tail on the Master would be paid for with deadly consequences.
I fear it shall be you and your orcs who will suffer on the battlefield. Good luck. I pray my suspicions are not justified this night.